Good morning and welcome back to the lecture series
on fiction, epics, novels, and poetry.
So today we are going to start with a new module titled Fiction and Different Modes of Narrative. Let's first try to understand what fiction is. Fiction refers to imaginative prose forms of any kind. We have the most common examples, the novel, the novella and the short story. Now, with the emergence of intermediate genres such as verse novel referring to narrative poetry in which a novel length narrative is told through the medium of poetry rather than that of prose, or the lyrical novel which fuses elements of lyric with that of narrative. uh, the question of genre becomes very difficult to posit. We see that different genres combine. uh, we see qualities of poetry with prose, poetry with narrative, and so it's not feasible to say in certain mixed genres, intermediate genres. It's difficult to say where the poetry ends and where the prose starts, and vice versa. As an example, we have Dante's La Vita Nuova, which is a prosimetrum, a piece that contains both verse and prose forms, right? So Dante's La Vita Nuova is a prosimetrum, a piece containing both verse and prose. Similarly, Boccaccio's Decameron and Goethe's Faust have qualities of intermediate genre. Decameron combines aspects of comedy with the pastoral, whereas Faust is a work which lies at the crossroads of play and epic. So, how do the different modes of narrative emerge? The difference in which time is divided into temporality, or the relationship of time with events, determines the formation of different modes of narrative. How is time treated through events? How are the events related in time? This question itself enables the reader to distinguish the different modes of narrative. According to Marx, economic flow is at the heart of all kinds of expressions. So, economic flow, the economic category is pre-given in a society, and it acts as the pivot on which all other categories are revolving. So, the economic paradigm has its own dynamics of operating, which shows through new configurations of class. This is where Marx is coming from. So, quite in contrast to Karl Marx, we have Hegel, we have Friedrich Hegel saying that everything ephemeral comes from a Geist or a world spirit. So, he is using the term Zeitgeist, world spirit. Now, Geist, like I said, is an idealistic pattern that influences all other categories. So, just like Marx said that economy is at the heart of everything else, Hegel would say that Geist or the world spirit is at the heart, which influences ethical, political, philosophical, and cultural understandings and expressions. So, according to both Georg Lukács or Georgy Lukács alternately, and Mikhail Bakhtin, different genres are formed according to the way in which totality is perceived. In other words, different genres look at the question of totality from a different lens, through a different perspective. So, from a different perspective and through a different lens. So, a genre stands in the matrix of complex historicized ideas and their social reflections. Georg Lukács tries to create a bigger generic framework where he draws a commonality that connects the epic with the novel. The markers of commonality and differences are associated with the spirit of the age, right? Why and how are the epic and the novel similar and different from one another? Uh, could be answered to a great extent in terms of the spirit of the age, right? Some commonalities between epic and novel are causality, so both the genres progress through causality by and large, and also the feature of digression to subplots. So, in both epic and novel, we see digression to subplots, to to different narratorial voices, different events that are apparently a digression from the main course of narration or the primary narrative voice. So, in epic, nothing new is being created. We have to understand that epic stands on the edifice of a known tradition. In other words, when Ramayana was being written, let's take an example closer to home. So, Valmiki's Ramayana gives the reader a sense that the character Rama and others were already very popular, very well known in the society where he is sitting and writing about Rama. So this is the kind of the essence of mytho-historical figure is something that emerges. Whether Rama was a real character, we do not know. We do not have historical evidence to back our belief that Rama was indeed there. But then, in different places of Valmiki's Ramayana, in different parts, we feel that the society already knows about Rama. So, what is he writing about? Is it fiction? It's not exactly fiction. In every canto of epic, we see that the first few lines, the opening lines, are giving us in a nutshell what's going to happen subsequently. So, why do we read the rest of the work? We here have to understand the treatment of time. People had a lot more time, people had a more relaxed life when epic as a form thrived than, for example, the era of novel or novella or short story, where time becomes more and more compressed, life becomes busier, more hectic. So, epic essentially being an oral tradition, right? So, where someone is narrating, Homer is narrating the verses, and uh, people listen and remember. Process of orally, process of orally narrating, singing the epic, in fact, and then listening, remembering the process, the role of memorialization becomes very important, and then remembering, retaining, and reproducing it to others. This is how epic becomes a kind of substitute for historical documentation of history and newspaper. Right, it is almost a reflection of the contemporary society. It is a way of retaining a mirror of the contemporary civilization, but in a very fluid manner, in a way where the entire community gets to participate. So, the question of hegemony is hardly there, not even there. A lot of critics would go on to say that we do not have one Valmiki or one Veda Vyas or one Homer for that matter. These stories have existed in oral traditions for many, many years, and new events, new subplots have been added. While someone in the process of listening and then reproducing, something gets subtracted and something gets added much later, where they concretized in the form of a document, in the form of a written epic. uh, the stories, the narratives were fluid and present in the society. So Valmiki is not writing about something new. Everyone in the society, uh, the reader feels, knows about Rama and his journey, his story. So what is the writing about? Like I said, every canto at the beginning gives us in a nutshell what we are to expect as readers for the rest of it. So this is going to happen. So why do we still read? It is the artistry. It is the great, art, all the rasas, the bhavas, the stylistics that have gone into describing what could be said in two lines. People have time. The sense of time is much more relaxed. So they can recite, not only read it as an individual act, but recite Ramayana. Someone has written it. The process of writing is collective, and the process of reading, enjoying, savoring the rasa, is also collective. People sit together and read. It is also so. An epic could be seen as a glue for a community, binding the community together. Right? We are enjoying here how Valmiki, wherein lies the intervention of the writer. So, a very common incident known to everyone in the society. How does the writer produce it uh, and thereby turn it into an artistic work? So, its value as an art, its value as a literary piece is immense. It's a masterpiece of all times. That is the essence of epic. Nothing new is being created. It is it stands on the edifice of a known tradition, right? And here I would very quickly like to talk about a term that is indigenous, belongs and originates from India, the term itihasa. Itihas, we have to understand, is not the same as history in the Western sense. The Western tradition has always been very particular about keeping history as fact bound, fact driven, objective, and a distant process of reporting almost. Now, Itihasa is a wedding of history to the local myths. So, when translated to English, Itihasa means thus was a tradition. And so, the existence of this tradition, corroboration of the meanings that we find from a tradition that existed, that thrived long back in a distant past, a past that is of incommensurable distance. We cannot meet, we cannot overcome that distance. It's the age of forefathers where epic belongs, that kind of past, very many years and centuries back, things happened. Uh, Here we are not only talking about facts, because facts cannot be in most cases verified. We are not talking about fact checking verified facts. Rather, we are talking about uh, facts being considered as facts because of the consensus of the people, because of the faith of the people. So, a figure like Rama is who is a prince in Valmiki's work, goes on to become a god, elevated to the pedestal of God, Lord Rama, sheer due to through sheer devotion and faith of the people. That is what collective faith can do to a common prince with human follies. He is turned into a larger than life. He is larger than life as a prince. He becomes an incarnation of Lord Vishnu by the time we read Tulsidas, right? So he has had his own journey within the Indian society, and through people's consensus, collective faith, the Bhakti movement, all these confluences turn Prince Rama into Lord Rama as an incarnation of Vishnu. So, coming back to epic, the story is known, the artistry, the finery, and the styles involved in narrating that story through writing is what comprises the thick book that usually an epic is. Primary epics are oral. They trace back a provenance in orality, and so there is always a space for recreations and later additions. Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita was a later, addition, a much later addition to Mahabharata. It was foisted. So, with the same name, Vedavyas, many writers might have contributed to the writing of Mahabharata. It was a kind of collective community writing, maybe. So, the question of copyright also becomes problematic. And copyright is a very modern concept, a very recent concept that does not even apply to the genre of epic, be it the Eastern epics, the Indian Mahakavyas, or the Greco-Roman epics. So, in epic, there is a preconception of the man and his fate. So, how the man encounters his fate, according to which events and characters are formed. So, we have the protagonist that is kind of dealing with, meeting, coming to terms with his fate, who is journeying according to his fate. The entire journey of the hero is about encountering and overcoming obstacles that are preordained in fate, and his victory or defeat tells on the entire society. As epic world is a community centric world, we have to understand that the epic hero does not do any act that is self referential. He is a communal person, so his own good, in Indian terms we are talking about his karma. His karma is in fact the term karma is not an individualistic one. It is deeply interspersed with the question of community's good. So, one's own good cannot be decoupled from the community's good. Rama kills very many demons, and similarly we have heroes from Western epics who undertake these ventures not for themselves but for the community. In the process, they are, they are going through so many sacrifices, so much of self-denial for the betterment of the community, right? So, there is no entity in the ancient world that is conceived outside of one's engagement with everyone else, with the larger concept of goodness. So, in epic, ethic is a purely formal precondition which determines its finished form. It's already an ontological whole, a closed space, right? This closed space couldn't have been described better than than through the example of Krishna, telling Arjuna, when Arjuna is not willing to kill his own relatives, fighting against him. Krishna just opens his mouth and he shows that the universe inside his mouth, where everyone is already dead. That is the future which is already preordained, and but as a guide and also as Lord, incarnation of Vishnu. So Krishna not as a friend, but as a counselor and also as a god, explains to Arjun that he is just and only the medium. Everything is preordained, everything is decided. He just is the vehicle, the medium for carrying out something that has been decided beforehandedly by the fate. So, definitions of good and bad, moral and immoral, virtue and vice are pivoted on ethical prescriptions from where the outcome is very much predictable, right? So we do not have, the human as individual that is taking on the world as a thinking self. One does not think too much. The destiny has already decided for the individual, and an individual is almost a puppet in the hands of destiny, does not get to play too much with it. So being or existence is already attained, and so there is no intention to imitate the reality. Epic is not equal to reality. In fact, epic portrays a world that gives us a sense of long back, uh, not a fact driven history, but a tradition. Thus was a tradition, the golden era of forefathers, to which, about which we cannot imagine, where people were, larger than life characters. So Rama had he was a male, blue bodied male. The parameters of beauty, the parameters of ugliness, parameters of ethics and goodness, they are all larger than life, so extreme, so superlative, which cannot be brought on to the scale of contemporary reality. We had flying horses, talking animals, spirits, gods and humans on, on exchangeable planes. Humans could be godlike, gods could be very uh, anthropomorphic, and so it's a different kind of a cosmos, a different world that cannot be immediately identified with, and that's the very idea of epic, right? Like I said, there are divine interventions. Gods keep descending to intervene in human actions, manipulate human actions. Gods that betray human vice. It could be jealousy, it could be anger. We see this a lot in Greek tradition. So we see, for example, Zeus and Hera constantly involved in domestic skirmishes, husband and wife fights, and the Iliad begins with three goddesses competing regarding whose quality is chosen by the protagonist, and then we see children being born out of union between God and humans. There are several such instances where demigods or half humans are born, who are children of Zeus, for example. We have similar such myths of uh, let's say children of Ganga, who are the eight Vasus, not really uh, worldly creatures. They are celestial beings, right? And they go back to heaven. So all these myths, we see humans are larger than humans. Mortals are not exactly identifiable with our realities. Um, in epic, life and meaning are conferred upon each event and character through allocating to each its place in the larger schema, in the larger structure. Like I said, there is not much room for experimentation or playing with one's own destiny, shaping one's own destiny, being an agent of one's own destiny. So, talking about the anthropomorphic characters of the gods and goddesses, we see that Iliad begins with three goddesses, Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena, competing among themselves regarding the attention of Prince Paris. Who does Paris choose? Beauty, uh, courage, or prosperity. So here we see that gods are not really very different from humans, and they are in that hierarchical ladder. Uh, they are not the supreme. The supreme, so they are below fate. Gods cannot change fate. Fate is above the gods and goddesses. Now we will talk about the novel. The novel is a departure from the epic world and taking us to the contemporary world. Contemporary world, uh, not a closed one, but an open one, where we get polyglossia, where we get multiple meanings, people from different backgrounds, different worldviews coming in the form of characters, which renders complexity, layeredness to the genre of novel. So, the novel would say that if there is no friction between inner and outer reality, uh, it will not be formed. The novel happens through a friction between the inner and the outer. There needs to be a problem at the heart of the novel, which uh, acts as a torque, a propellant, enables the novel to move forward. The protagonist of the novel is always inadequate to his surroundings. So, while novel's occurrence is contemporary, uh, and it is a genre, a modern genre that is constantly being created through different kinds of experimentations and subversions. Epic is ontologically fixed. So, the difference between the epic and the novel is fundamentally the difference between a stasis of being, the ontologically fixed and finished world which epic is, and the fluidity of becoming, the novel that is kind of the novel and its characters that need to be constantly pursued even by the novelist, because the final outcome is not known either to the narrator or to the characters, and not even to uh, the novelist, the author. So, novel's legitimacy to the true condition of the contemporary spirit exudes a historico philosophical sense, right? It belongs to the modern history, a history that can be uh, located in terms of calendrical dates. Uh, the inner form of the novel is a process of journeying towards one's own self, and it entails a process of individual's introspection, right? Getting to know and act for on behalf of oneself, not being acted upon by the destiny. That kind of fatalistic attitude is gone by the time we arrive at a genre, a modern genre like novel. The conflict between what is and what should be, the real and the ideal, remains unresolved because it's a flawed world, one realizes. And this leads to a series of events and hence defines, shapes the plot of the story. From a mundane present physical reality, the journey of the novel leads to revealing a more heterogeneous and meaningless reality. And this meaninglessness also throws a light to our soul. It paves the path to self recognition or to the larger question of existence, human existence. Epic has been experimented through breaking or subverting the original generic boundaries of the epic as it would be written uh, in its provenance, uh, and this has led to subversion of original myths in order to incorporate the author's version. So, for example, women have incorporated their own perspectives into this genre, which is essentially created by a male author, or rather male authors, if we see it as a collective creation. So, for example, we have many feminist perspectives. feminist writings, rewritings of Ramayana, we have Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, who is rewriting these myths, and many other feminists that uh, uh, emphasize those chapters that talk about experiences, or rather do not talk much about the experience of the woman. It could be rewriting the story of someone as prominent as Sita and Draupadi, or someone who is marginal and who has a marginal existence, and thereby invisibilized in the narrative, such as Urmila, Lakshman's wife, or one of Rama's brothers' wives. It could be from the perspective of Surpanakha, or one of the female figures shown as the enchantress, the demon female, right? So we have feminist renditions. Uh, we have Mary Ty's poem Psyche uses the Spenserian stanza that Edmund Spenser first originated in the Elizabethan epic of the Fairy Queen. So, using this stanza, Spenserian stanza, Ty is rewriting the myth, right? In Ty's epic poem, the goddess Venus, out of jealousy for the attentions that Psyche receives, commands Cupid to make Psyche fall in love with a monster. So, American avant-garde poet Hilda Doolittle's poem Helen of Egypt is an American epic poem which reinvents the myths surrounding Helen, Paris, Achilles, Theseus, and other ancient Greek characters, thereby fusing storylines with the mysteries of Egyptian Hermeticism. There are historical films such as Ben Hur, epic historical romance film Gone with the Wind, and even science fiction films such as Star Wars and 2001 A Space Odyssey, which are all referred to as epic films. So we see that the term epic, the meaning of epic has also had its own journey. It is used as epic fiction, which is very different from the original epic, the original qualities of the epic. In fact, it is anti-epic to an extent. It subverts the values upheld in the epic tradition. And so, while the outward spatial and character delineation of epic is infinite in the sense that it has a panoramic proportion, humans are journeying for years together through forests. Suprahumans, rather. These are all suprahumans in epics we are talking about. Humans are fighting the battle. It could be the battle between the Trojans and the Asians, or the battle between the Kauravas and the Pandavas in Kurukshetra, which goes on for years, 14 years. So the scale cannot be imagined from our ordinary existence, ordinary modern diminished existence that we inhabit. And so we see, however, although this scale is infinite, very large in proportion, a panoramic canvas that epic is trying to cover. Think of the episode of squirrels bringing pebbles to build a bridge between India, between Bharat and Lanka. So this kind of activities, almost wondrous, fantastic, that cannot be gauged alongside our ordinary existence, our ordinary capabilities, right? However, in terms of ethics and values, epic sets forth its own limits from within itself. So, for example, in a Mahakavya, such as Raman or Mahabharat, the characters are all bound by dharma and their actions cannot supersede the dharma. Just like in the Western sense, we have the fate which is higher than the gods and the goddesses, even the Trinity. Uh, in the Eastern sense, we have the concept of dharma, uh, to which even Krishna is answerable. If he is crossing the bounds of dharma, he can be cursed by a human, a more ordinary human, a woman such as Gandhari, which is happening. We see Gandhari cursing Krishna, that his entire clan will die and he will suffer the same, grief that she undergoes once all her 100 sons are killed. And this curse goes on to become a truth, right? So, because in certain sense, Krishna might have not done the right thing, right? Even a very pure woman has the power to curse the demigod, the god like Krishna. So, in novel, the scope of the world is limited by the ordinary hero's possible experiences, right? So, we are uh, constantly shuffling and reshuffling meanings in terms of what a human being is doing and what he can do the next moment. He has, in a sense, he is more limited than the epic hero. Initially, the novel's hero is limited in terms of scale, he is more ordinary, more immediately identifiable. But then, in terms of capacity, in terms of thinking capacity, in terms of encountering the outer world, the novel's hero, is not ruled by a god, right? So, the novel's hero's life is more complex, right? He has a complex psyche, an introspection, an inner world to deal with. Discrete groups of isolated events and characters appear throughout the narrative, leading to the main plot, which is symbolized by the story and the problem of the central character's life. Uh, we see that to an extent, Ramayana, rather than like a Western epic, is closer to the genre of Bildungsroman. Bildungsroman, which talks about the protagonist being born and, pursues the years of the protagonist growing up and the concomitant experiences. Uh, it could be a coming of age writing where the protagonist enters her teens and has new experiences. So we see that Ramayana is very similar to Bildungsroman rather than uh, to the Western epic. Bildungsroman, which talks about the protagonist being born and pursues the journey of growing up and the concomitant experiences. In the same way, in Ramayana, we see the journey of Rama's life from the stage where he is born, even before his birth, the efforts that his father takes to conceive the child, right? So, another uh, point in novel is that a novel is never bound to cover the beginning and end of life. It's not the entire life uh, that is bracketed within a novel. It could be a slice of life, a portion from life, a glimpse from life, right? And so the beginning and end of the novel are determined by the central problem which supplies content on the novel, right? The part of life which speaks to the central problem of the novel, the problem around which the novel revolves. So, the storyline of the novel is incumbent on a particular problem and it touches only that segment of life and those relevant events and characters that are associated with, that relate to and directly speak to the problem of the novel. According to Lukács, journey is a constitutive element which is also common to both the generic forms of epic and novel. Journey emerges as an important thematic element, in fact. The epic hero's journey designates a notion of action, heroism, his subjectivity, as well as his relation to, his contribution to, in some sense, the external world. So, however, there is no rift between the inner and outer psyche of the epic hero. He lives and interacts with divine time space, with divine characters or beings. So, his journey and actions are a unified expression that voices out not his individuality but the collective society, the shared ethos, right? We see that Rama and Lakshmana are being taken away by the sage to his ashram in order to kill the demon Taraka, and it is it is part of the archetype where the guru kind of figure kind of initiates and apprentices the disciples for and thereby prepares them for the larger event. And everything is told beforehand. We, even before Rama is born, we know that there is this condition, this prior condition that the sons have to go and go on this adventure. They have to kill a demon, save the sages' ashrama, their habitat, from the demon, and it is also preordained that they will emerge as victorious, that the demon will be killed. So, the outcome is already known, always already known, right? Even before the hero is born. So, the novel's hero's journey, on the other hand, is a very individual one. We don't know what's going to happen. If he is fighting some demon-like figure, he himself might die. And so, this journey of the novel's hero, a much diminished one, without any godly use, without any godly essence, is fraught with anxiety and dilemma. It is not ideal and preordained as in the case of epic. So, a sense of totality cannot be achieved. Here we find a violent rupture between the notion of the self and the world. This rupture defines the essence of the novel, the modern existence of humans, where there cannot be a harmony forever, there cannot be happiness forever. The reality defies that kind of permanent harmony at any level. So, it is always a process of becoming, a process of meanings, in a state of flux, which is not accomplished, not successful, a continuity without achieving, without attaining any finality. So, the novel has no logical beginning or end. Rather, the novelist, the author, needs to impose these two signposts, let's say, in order to give it a concrete form. Rather, the novelist has to add these two kind of marks, these two signposts or kind of destinations where the novel has to abide by a form in order for it to become a concrete documented work, a closed piece of writing. I would like to stop our discussion here, and I'll meet you with further discussions in our subsequent lectures. Thank you.